Welcome to the 2026 Sociable City Summit. My name is Jim Peters. I'm the president of the Responsible Hospitality Institute, and I'm grateful that you're here and that you're here to learn and discover. But I'm going to introduce a short presentation to set the stage about the opening session, which I'm really excited about. But first, I want to acknowledge the support that we received locally with the various associations and businesses that have come together to provide the financial resources to help make this event possible, as well as our national organizations and associations and businesses that have helped make this possible. And in particular, I want to acknowledge the Nightcap Alliance, which is an association of people who are working in nighttime economy management in major cities throughout the United States, and clearly this is a movement that's global. I also want to acknowledge the Nashville Mayor's Office of Nightlife, one of those Nightcap Alliance members, with Benton and Kelly and Kanitha and Herschel, who have helped to build programs, not only the general sessions and to provide the support that we needed to put this event on, but also the mobile workshops that you'll be able to attend in the venues that are located throughout downtown, with a lot of really innovation coming from the city of Nashville. I also want to acknowledge our staff, some of those people that you meet here. Susan Hernandez, this is her 7th summit that she's worked with us. Bella, Emily, and Jenny Anderson, who's not with us, but has been an employee with RHI since 1989. So in putting together this session, I think it's important to reflect upon how things don't just happen, that there's always some genesis to new ideas and innovation. So back in 2005, we held the networking conference in Los Angeles, and at the time, Commander Michael Downing was working in the Hollywood Boulevard area of the city, which at the time had a big resurgence in mega nightclubs, large, high-end nightclubs. The Paris Hiltons of the world would go to these clubs. So it was a very dynamic and very exciting opportunity in LA's revitalization of their nightlife. But a sergeant from Chicago, Sergeant Cynthia Schulman, attended this event and learned from Commander Downing the approach that he took with a dedicated police team, security training, coordination of mobility and movement of people, as well as implementing conditional use permit processes to assure a balance of uses within the district. So this process was brought back to Chicago, and it was during the time when the city was recovering from the E2 nightclub stampede. Some of you may have recall that it was in 2003, but it was through this initiative that the sergeant convinced her commander, Commander O'Donnell at the time, to implement a pilot program in the Rush Division Street of Chicago. And that evolved to become the entertainment venue team, which really included police and fire and code and alcohol and other agencies that worked with venue operators towards compliance. But at the same time, the city organized the Department of Business Affairs and Licensing, later the Office of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. And Rosa, who's going to be speaking later today, is someone who is involved in putting that department together. But it was this approach that was showcased at an event that we did in San Francisco in 2010. At the time, Commander Steve Georges, who was the commander who oversaw this entertainment venue team, later became a deputy chief, and then also Scott Bruner, who was the founding director of the Department of Business Affairs and Licensing. But in the audience, you had representatives from Edmonton and Seattle, and in particular, I want to mention Greg Mullen, who came from Charleston, and he was the police chief there. So he took the information back, and over the years, we collaborated with him because we had a project in Columbia, South Carolina, and I spent time with Greg, and we worked together, and then we learned more about what they were doing in Edmonton and Seattle and DC and other cities in terms of the evolution of this idea of an interagency model to manage nightlife districts. So in 16, Charleston was the host of our Sociable City Summit. And then Commander John Drake, now chief from Nashville, attended that summit. And I'm not sure exactly how it evolved, but we saw that Ricky Bearden came to the Austin summit, and then we created the Sociable City Academy, and Greg Mullen was the faculty for that academy in New Orleans in 2018. But in the meantime, Greg collaborated with us in putting together the Public Safety and Policing Nightlife District Guide, which was distributed to the major cities Chiefs Association, as well as other organizations that attended the summit over a number of years. So we distributed thousands of copies of this, both electronically and in print. But we also translated it into Spanish for a project that we did in Cancun, Mexico. And that guide was distributed throughout Mexico, police departments, as well as through some cities in Central America. So as you can see, this evolution of this process, has its roots along the way. And as any tree that grows, it grows from the resources that are gathered from the roots. And then that produces, obviously, a much greater outcome. So I want to acknowledge the work that's been done over the past 20 years by cities throughout the United States and Canada, as well as other parts of the world that have contributed to this model. And so I'm pleased to welcome the Nashville Collaborative for Safety, managing the Nighttime Pulse. But for now, I'm going to turn this over to our RHI Board Chair, Paul Sears, who will do the official welcome, as well as introduce you to the general manager of the DoubleTree Hotel, which is our host. But I want to thank you all for being here. I hope that you learn a lot and that you take some lessons back, and that over the years you'll come back and share some of the evolution of thought and ideas and innovation that you gathered from this event and that spurred you on to new dimensions in this whole field. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you.